I'm Randy Alvarez. You're watching the Randy and Christa show. It's Christa Recchio. Christa, another episode.
Another episode. News that makes you healthier. Here we are.
All right, so today we're talking about Candida cleanses and what you could do if you have a yeast overgrowth, what it really means and what are the symptoms. This is something you deal with all the time.
I deal with all the time. I'd have to say I'm a self-proclaimed expert in Candida just because I've had to become one.
You said you could talk about it till the cows come home. That's what you said.
I know.
I said then
Here's
this
the
show
thing.
should all be about you then, because I'll just ask the questions. So good.
Well, you can ask the questions, but I want to hear about your experience over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's first, now the whole journey. You guys have a cleanse. For people with Candida, do they know they have it? Is there like a crowd?
Many people, I think, have been suffering with these symptoms. Bloating, mentally foggy, they have alternating constipation or diarrhea, they really can't digest anything, and that goes hand in hand with adrenal fatigue.
Okay.
And so I think that Candida is still, it's getting out there. Dr. Oz did an entire series of yeast segments, which I thought was pretty cool with Mark Hyman's people, but I still think it's not necessarily in the mainstream.
So what defines Candida problem?
So Candida, I'm not talking necessarily about yeast infections, and we can talk about that too because a lot of women are suffering with them and I have a nice process that can help. But Candida albicans is a yeast overgrowth in the intestinal tract. And so we all have Candida and we need it in healthy amounts, but it's when it gets overgrown that it starts to kill our good bacteria, that it starts to cause just this litany of problems and it starts to impede digestion. And a big problem, and I'll tell you how I got Candida, and this is how I became such an expert in it, is I was basically raised on antibiotics. I love my dad so much, but he's in the pharmaceutical industry. And so every time we sneezed, we got an antibiotic instead of a tissue. And so I was immune to amoxicillin by age 6. And I can still remember the taste of Augmentin and all the antibiotics that I took. And that's how I became the sugar addict and drinking tons of caffeine and really trying to control my energy levels because Candida goes hand in hand with hormonal imbalance. And so had I not gone through this and healed myself, you know, I had to take myself through the Candida cleanse 3 times because I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. And so I figured out a process that really works and have taken so many clients through
So the whole journey, is it an online course?
Now it's an online course, yeah, and it's twjcandidacleanse.com. And you can go there, and I wrote a blog about it so you can see, do you have these symptoms? And there's a free test that everybody can do at home to see if this is something you have. And they did it on Dr. Oz, and we should have you testing.
Did you see the Dr. Oz show on this? What'd you think?
I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really well done. I was sharing it on social media. And more than anything, I was just really happy that he was sharing something like that that is viewed as alternative or natural. So he's embracing kind of the functional medicine approach. So what kind of a test
do you recommend to see if you have this overgrowth?
Well, you can do expensive lab tests, which I have run tons of those. You can do a saliva test.
What do you do?
You can do a stool test. You can do a blood test. I have clients do a very simple, easy, free at-home test where you fill up a glass of water about halfway.
Okay.
You can do this tomorrow morning, okay? And then you're going to text me. Tell me what happens.
Okay.
So you fill up a glass of water halfway, and you work up a dime-sized amount of saliva. You spit in the glass. And then you watch it intermittently. You don't have to stare it down. But for, let's say, 3 times over 45 minutes. And you see, does that saliva sink to the bottom? Does it grow legs? Or does it stay floating on top? And if it stays floating on top, then you're clear. You don't have a Candida overgrowth. If it grows legs, then your yeast is a little out of balance. We start to talk about probiotics and some antifungals to chase it back. And if it sinks, then I always say there's more of them than you, and you really need the full-on 6 to 8 week cleanse.
So if it sinks. Now, is this on an empty stomach? Morning saliva?
I prefer that my clients do it on an empty stomach before they eat or drink anything, first thing in the morning.
How accurate do you think that is?
Well, I've run them in tandem. I can only speak to my clinical experience, but I have run stool tests at the same time with the saliva test, blood tests at the same time with the saliva test, and they have always matched. And you know, you can spend a lot of money in lab work, so I find it accurate.
So how often do you do this?
I mean, I have probably taken at least 200 clients over the last 8 years through the Candida cleanse, and it started to get to be so much where everyone had it, so I did a webinar series. So is it mostly the
growing legs?
You growing legs, yeah. And if
no, what I mean, is that the one that normally comes up? Or
A lot of people
are actually
think.
thinking.
Well,
Interesting.
here's the thing.
I did this once before. Mine just stayed at the top.
You just did it once. Okay, you have to do it for 6 days. You guys at home, if you're going to do this test, it has to be consecutive for 6 days. So I want you to do it all week and tell me what happens.
Okay.
Can you do that?
I will, I guess.
You're so good with the water pick and the and the hydrogen peroxide
well,
that you'll probably be fine.
You know what's interesting about this antibiotic thing? I was fortunate where I took my first antibiotic I took in my life was I was going to speak somewhere in New York. I was 32 years old. First time I ever had an antibiotic. I took it for 3 days to prevent the first flu I ever had in my life, and I never got it.
The first time you ever took antibiotics, you were 32 years old?
Yes. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's why I could, that's why.
That speaks to your inherent constitution as well, being healthy.
Yeah, I've been lucky that way. But I've always taken vitamin C, and I've always taken my vitamins since I was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
I became a vitamin fanatic early on.
Plus now you only eat fish and vegetables, so.
Well, I try, You don't get a physique like mine by not going off the deep end here and there.
Twinkies every now and then is what I hear on the
But I
street.
do think that, no, not Twinkies, one time in my life. But no, I think that's why, because I didn't take antibiotics, that I have this thick, in my head, at least I believe this, a thick, like this mucosal lining.
Yes.
A great lining where I could eat everything. If I want to eat 2 large pizzas, I don't get a stomachache. Mm-hmm.
Because you have that healthy, thick mucosal line, and you can handle it from time to time.
Because we don't want to talk about me the whole time, right? Because your followers don't like when I talk.
You don't want to talk about yourself?
I found this out. We've done the demographics, by the way, and when I talk, they don't like it. When you talk, they like it. So we're going to move it over to you. So if somebody is having the classic symptoms, obviously if their saliva sinks or grows legs, right? You probably have a problem, okay?
You have a problem.
And you have the symptoms, which are like gas, bloating,
mental fogginess, skin issues, skin rashes, skin issues. But it's really that mental fog where you kind of just can't pull it together. You feel like there's a screen in front of you all day. That's kind of how a lot of my clients would describe it.
Is it mostly women that get this, or men, or both? Do you know?
I'd say it's 70-30. Because here's the thing. There's 2 different types of antibiotics. There's bacteriostatic, there's bactericidal, and depending on what the type of antibiotics you took, did you take antibiotics that just knock down the bad bacteria, or did you take the heavy hitters that really knock out everything? And then if you just take the full spectrum antibiotics with a couple of times, that's enough to get Candida. So men and women akin can get it, but then look at what's happened to our food supply where we're putting antibiotics in the feed. So basically most of America, when they eat out, they're eating polluted meat and they're getting this low dose of antibiotics every time they eat. And so while more women have it, so many more men are getting it. And they think, it just has to be a vaginal yeast infection. They don't want to talk about it. But really, it is that systemic yeast and it's causing a problem.
Okay, so now you talked about this on local news recently. Here in San Diego? Is that right? Or no?
No, not yet. I have not talked about this yet on local news.
And this is your favorite topic.
You heard it here first.
But this is your favorite topic? Because you went through it.
I don't have any favorite topics.
But you kind of cured yourself from it?
Yeah. I had to really figure out and go through it a couple of times to really get it to where I was testing great, and every time I tested myself, it was coming back negative.
Okay.
You want to talk about the process?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what you have to do is you have to kill the periphery layer of yeast. And how you do that is you starve it with diet. It's a low sugar, no fermentation whatsoever diet and you can't cheat on this diet. This is like 1 step forward, 5 steps back if you cheat. And that's the only thing at the whole journey. We're not about willpower, denial, or deprivation, except on the Candida cleanse.
All right.
And so
So no fermentation.
Right.
Meaning
so there's
alcohol.
no alcohol. That can be tough for people, 6 to 8 weeks. I have clients say, well, I haven't done that since high school. And so no alcohol, no vinegar, no soy sauce, no yogurt, nothing fermented.
Okay.
And that's very different than a lot of other Candida cleanses where they talk about fermentation to build the good gut flora. Mm-hmm. And I'm all for that once you clear the Candida. Otherwise, you fuel the fire, and that's been my experience.
Okay, so they do that, then what?
So you starve it with a diet, and you kill
No
it
sugar at
with
all.
Supplements. 0 sugar. The only
What about
sweeteners. No, 0 gluten, 0 dairy.
Okay.
You're going dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, and basically all fermentation-free. I mean, that really it makes it pretty boring.
Are you having to go really low glycemic vegetables and fruits?
Yes.
Or no
so
fruit
you're
at all, right?
only allowed green apples and berries and only 1 serving of fruit a day on this diet.
Okay.
And so you have to choose. Do you want to have a green apple with a little bit of nuts or coconut butter as a snack, or do you want to put berries in your smoothie? Or I say, would you like to have berries with, let's say, melted coconut butter as dessert? Kind of pick it for once a day. And so it is a restricted diet. It's basically 40% protein, clean protein, and 40% vegetables. 10% you can do nuts and seeds and fruit. That's the 10%.
Okay.
The other 10% would be low glycemic carbs, like if you can handle grains, a little bit of brown rice, a little bit of quinoa. If you can't handle grains, then you would do sweet potato, butternut squash, and those types of root vegetables.
Just one time a day?
10%.
10%, okay.
It's basically comes out to about 1.5 cups a day. So half a cup. I like to stabilize people's blood sugar because most people doing this have adrenal fatigue and they need to stabilize their blood sugar concurrently. So maybe like half of a cup with each meal will stabilize your blood sugar enough. And the only sweeteners that are allowed are stevia and xylitol.
Okay.
So we're going super low glycemic here.
And how many days?
Have
How many
honey.
days?
You do it for 6 weeks. And
Wow.
then you retake the spit test
So they
again.
probably lose 20, 30 pounds on this. I mean, if you're heavy, but you're going to lose
if
weight
you're
on this.
heavy, you'll lose 6 to 8 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, within the first week, and usually 15 pounds a month if you're heavy.
So
maybe 20.
Okay, and the people that you've done this to, right? What happens?
Well, if you do it right, then your life changes forever and you never have to do it again. Because we're not just killing the Candida, we're also, by way of doing that, you're boosting your thyroid because you're digesting better. You're healing your adrenal glands, and then I go into phase 2 of gut repair where we rebuild the intestinal mucosa, that immune system, your mucosal lining. We rebuild hydrochloric acid and we repopulate. So people feel better than they've ever felt in their life.
So no probiotics during this time.
Yes, I use Saccharomyces boulardii. That is a yeast-eating strain of probiotic. And so I have people taking
So not all
quite a high
probiotics are
dose.
good for this.
Not
this.
all probiotics. I really kind of, you can't plant flowers in a junkyard. That's what I say. Let's clear it out,
Is that
and
what
then
you
let's
say?
repopulate.
If you say it, how come I've never heard it before?
I don't
from you?
know, because I've been gone for a month.
I learn
I
new
think we
things
don't
all the
hang
time.
out
Like I
enough.
didn't know that your dad was in pharmaceutical sales,
Yeah,
and I didn't know you were eating antibiotics all the time.
yeah.
Very interesting.
I save this
I mean,
stuff
you're
to
letting
talk
me
about
in
life.
on like very slowly these things. It's very interesting. Okay.
Okay, I'm glad you know that now.
Yeah. Okay. So, is it on purpose or just because you don't feel like telling everybody your life story?
No, it's just I don't hang out with you that much.
Okay, that's true.
You
Okay.
know?
So
Yeah.
so people that have this
Uh-huh.
and they never get it back.
If you do it right.
'Cause
I
you
mean,
said
I
that
didn't
you've-
do it right, so I couldn't get rid of it. I mean, you
'Cause
basically.
6 weeks is a long time.
But here's the thing, Randy, and it might end up being 10 weeks.
Okay.
So at the 6-week mark, you have to do the spit test again. And if you have a 50% improvement or more, then we start to titrate you off the cleanse for the next 2 weeks. If you don't, it's like when the groundhog sees his shadow, you have to do another 4 weeks.
All right. Okay. But there's a specific supplement, vitamin mineral supplement regimen that goes along with the eating like this. Is that correct?
Yes, here's my process, okay? So you're taking your probiotics at night. Probiotics are always best taken at night and on an empty stomach so that they can implant in the intestinal lining. Okay, then you wake up and I have people drink the sludgy cocktail.
All right.
And this sludgy cocktail have you ever heard of diatomaceous earth?
No.
You've probably seen it. It's like just a white powder. It looks like old tiny fossils. And they use it to clean pools.
Okay.
Obviously, you need a food grade one here. And what that does is that slices open basically the exoskeleton of the Candida, if you will. So they're old tiny fossils. They don't affect the human body at all, but you have to open this up and get into the cell wall. And then I have the mixed diatomaceous earth.
Fossils of what? They're bone fossils?
They're old like bones.
Is that right? Okay.
I'll bring you some once you do the Candida test. If you grow legs, you're going to be on this cocktail, so you better
I'm going to
listen
call
up.
you. It's like 1 a.m.
No, because you do the test in the morning.
Okay, so I'll do it in the morning.
Yeah,
I'll
you
call
do it in the morning. You can call me at 6 in the morning.
All right.
Okay, and then you blend that with bentonite clay. You drink a small amount. I have people start off with either a fourth or a half of a teaspoon.
Okay.
And so this sludgy cocktail, you drink it down because you want to cut the exoskeleton, you want to catch it with the clay, and you have to drink tons of water to mobilize this out of the body.
Okay.
Okay? At night, you're doing the probiotic. the yeast-eating probiotic, and then I use, so that's the periphery layer, but it lives deep within the intestinal tissues. So I should say that Candida is an opportunistic organism.
Okay.
You tell me what that means.
No, that means when the chips are low, or you're sick or stressed or didn't sleep.
Yes.
It's opportunistic. It takes over.
Right. So the
right?
host,
Or you eat too much.
the host has to be weakened in some way in order for this guy to live and thrive and survive.
Okay.
Exactly. So I like how you said that, when the chips are low.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and so usually there's something else going on. It's a liver issue, an immune issue. You have a virus that's now active instead of dormant, and so you can't just look at Candida. You have
And this
to
is
look
all
at
in
the
your
whole body.
online program.
Yes,
right?
I have this laid out 5-week program that you can go through. I based this program off of a live webinar that I did with 60 people from around the world. And I did it about a year ago. And so we answered every question that we've ever
Where'd
gotten.
you learn this, by the way? I mean, somebody watching this, they're saying, what makes Christa so smart? Where are you learning this stuff? Fair
Well,
question.
I think if you love something, I mean, I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, literally.
Okay.
And just from my own process, I've been my own lab rat for the last 10 plus years. And I have a desire and a drive. If you're going to work with me, I want to make it count. I want to be your guide to get you well and for the long term. I'm all about becoming your own best doctor.
Do you have a book that you could recommend somebody watching this?
There's the Complete Yeast Guide book. That's pretty good.
Okay.
And that's actually the only book that I have on Candida.
Okay, so now what, other than the saliva test, what we talk about stool tests and other tests, so what's the next level up? Like the basic test that you'd want to take
Well, I
to find out if you have it.
To find, then just you can do a stool test. But if you do a stool test, you have to work with an integrative practitioner. You can't just go to a regular primary care and collect a one-day sample, because it's not enough of the intestinal. It's not enough to know. So you have to at least, bare minimum, do a 3-day sample. But I have all of my clients doing an 8-day sample, because then
Wonderful.
I mean, that's no fun. It's no fun for anybody to collect this. But if you're going to go through
So
that,
they collect it at home and send it away.
and they collect it at home and send it away. I have them there's 4 vials, and we don't tell the lab company
That's the worst
this.
news I heard all day.
Okay, there's 4
Okay,
vials.
okay.
Let's say you collect Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then I have them keep it an extra 4 days. And then on Saturday, they put a sample back in Tuesdays. And then Sunday, a sample back in Wednesdays. So there's 2 samples from 2 different days. And you get,
What lab
I
do
don't
you
want to
like?
say infallible results, but I get a
you'll
lot
know.
of results.
You'll know.
I've helped people clear C. diff and, serious things that you think that you could never otherwise clear. And we find these really intense organisms, parasites, ova, bad bacteria.
So the more, because you've seen reversals, right? Because they
Endless
retest. There's a comparative
reversals.
study.
Exactly.
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
Just with food.
Well, with food and supplements, we need to talk about the antifungals.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so here's where I got really effective, because most people, if you go to a conventional medical doctor, they'll give you something like diflucan, or they'll give you an antifungal to knock it back, but it doesn't get deep within the intestinal tissue to actually help you eradicate it.
Okay.
So this is where I had to keep doing it. You have to do a 16-day rotation using 4 different antifungals, because Candida, remember, is opportunistic and it wants to stay alive and live in your body. And so if you're just going to use the same antifungal, it's going to be able to morph and stay alive and become resistant to that one antifungal. So I use 4, and I switch it every 4 days of the cleanse, and the bare minimum that you take these antifungals is for 32 days. Most people are going to do 3 rounds of antifungals beyond those,
Okay.
for 44
And
days.
So what do they say? The first thing, like you say, they have brain fog.
Yeah.
What goes away first? Like, what do they report?
Digestion. Weight loss. Everyone who has some weight to lose, they obviously get benefits. But here's the thing, it depends on your level of health. If the liver is healthy and the kidneys, then people get a lot better benefit quicker. If not, you can get Herxheimer's response, which is like a 10-car pileup on the 805, where the body's trying to clear out toxins quicker than it has the ability to, and they get die-off symptoms, and it can get worse before it gets better. Headaches and flu-like symptoms, because this is releasing out of your system. I routinely hear that I can think straight for the first time in years, having energy all day, so the 2 o'clock dip, the 10 a.m. dip, that starts to go away. Skin, it's more of people will come to me and say, 5 people last week asked me what I was doing, that I look totally different. And that's, the proof is in the pudding, right? So I hear that a lot.
Okay.
And they're balanced. It's a great prenatal hormone. If you can't get pregnant and you've been trying for a long time, I highly suggest doing the spit test and seeing if this might be your problem.
Very interesting. Okay, so what about what about things like garlic or oregano? Tell me about this supplement regimen.
I'm glad you asked that. So garlic, yes, it's a great antifungal, antiviral, and so eat as much garlic as you can without blowing somebody away.
What about eating it like the pills, like alicillin
Sure.
pills?
Yeah, odorless garlic and taking the pills. I'll tell you what I use. I use my 4 superstars. One is Palo d'Arco. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, Palo d'Arco is an herb that comes from South America.
Okay.
And I have people drinking a tea. And so that, I use it first because it will supercharge the immune system. It's an antifungal, it's also an antiviral.
Okay.
And it is super powerful. So anybody who has active Epstein-Barr, if they have shingles, or if they're herpes, HPV, anything, this is going to be what they're going to go on. And as the first sign of sickness, anybody who has a virus in their system, I put them on Palo d'Arco.
Okay.
And it works great for vaginal yeast infections as well. So everybody should know it's PAU, then a separate word, D''ARCO.
Okay, we'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
Put it at the bottom of the
If
screen.
the editors listen to that, we'll put it at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Do you have a dose that you like to give?
Good. Well, I have people drink the tea, and my favorite brand is Traditional Medicinals.
Okay.
And you get it at any health food store, you can get it online, and I have them drink.
Is it good? Does it taste good?
It tastes earthy. It doesn't taste great. It doesn't taste horrible. It tastes like drinking tree bark.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you're not drinking it for the taste.
All right.
It's more effective in tea form. You can get it upwards of 1,500 milligrams a day in pill form. And they all vary because it's not necessarily the milligram, but the quality of how they standardize it and the potency.
Okay.
So 1,500 milligrams with one company could be completely different with 1,500 milligrams of another.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that one first. And then you really start to chase back the viruses and clean up the system and hit it hard, so to speak.
How do they know it's working, by the way? What do they report as far as bowel movements, things like that?
I'm glad you talk about bowel movements because and people don't like to talk about it, but that's the best way to know what's happening.
You love talking about it.
So they normalize. I mean, I ask every client, you have to know the intimate details of what's happening. It's the best way to know it's going on inside the body based on what is coming out outside the body.
One time a day, 2 times a day?
Yeah, well, everybody preferably should be going 2 to 3 times a day, but one good one, I say we'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, and you shouldn't feel your food after you eat it. You know, you shouldn't have bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, nothing. It should just really be regular, like clockwork, and things flowing.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. So it should be in the morning?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's
Bowel
healthy?
movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right after you wake up, you can drink your sludgy cocktail. You have a glass of lemon water, which I think you're doing, right?
You know, I forget to do it sometimes.
You do. Okay. Maybe you get back on
Because
the
of the
train,
lemons.
Randy. It's a new year.
Well, no, sometimes I forget to go down there and see it.
You could squeeze the lemon in your water and put it on your nightstand.
I want to
drink
do
it. Drink it. Put it on your nightstand and just drink it before you go downstairs.
Every day. Okay.
Yeah.
So, back to antibiotics.
Okay.
If anybody watching this is taking antibiotics or about to go on antibiotics, what do you say to them?
Yeah, and I'm not against antibiotics. I actually just had to take them for the first time in years. Been getting really sick back in New York, and you just want to concurrently do your cleanup work with antibiotics. So if you're going to take antibiotics at the same time, 4 hours after each antibiotic dose, you take a full spectrum probiotic. So an 8-strain, 10-strain, 12-strain probiotic.
Okay.
Do you want brands?
Yeah.
I mean, I recommend people take the Garden of Life probiotic, PB8, orthomolecular probiotics are my favorite, orthobiotic, probiotic 225. You really want to make sure you're getting a good one that's living and stored well and processed well so that it actually works.
Because the moisture kills it.
Yeah, there's so
The
many
probiotics.
things that can kill the probiotics, and then you're wasting your time and your money and you're not getting the benefit. So you have to take probiotics I suggest if you're going to take antibiotics for 4 days or for a week or 10 days, you want to take probiotics for 3 solid weeks.
Now, we've talked about this. So you don't necessarily think that just probiotic, blindly you take probiotic. So if you already have gassing, bloating, and these kind of things, digestion problems, it's probably not a good idea to take a probiotic that may feed this. And they feed the yeast? I mean, there's certain probiotics that would feed it?
If you just take one strain, for example, acidophilus, that could feed the yeast. But everything is case specific. So I did a whole segment. There was a whole bunch of studies a few months ago, and I did a segment, Can Bacteria Make You Skinny? And so I'm a big fan of probiotics. It's fermentation that will make it worse and feed it. And so it really depends. But the idea is to get someone's microbiome in balance so that they can keep it balanced by eating fermented foods at least a few times a week, and just take probiotics when you're feeling run down or things are on the fritz or they're not working, and to flood the body with probiotics maybe for 3 weeks, 2 or 3 times a year, versus taking it as general maintenance. Unless you're eating gluten and sugar and you're drinking a lot of alcohol, then you need a probiotic every single day to offset.
Do you take a probiotic every day?
No, I'm taking them now since I took antibiotics.
But you don't take them throughout the year every day?
No, I probably take them, in higher doses, like I said, for 3 weeks at a time, maybe 3 times a year.
So what's your take, and this is off topic, but what's your take on why maybe you're, healthy person, kind of a low stress person, you have nothing to worry about, right?
Is that true?
Why is it you
How do you know that?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, why is it you catch a cold, for example? Because I have this one negative buddy. I think I've told you. I have this one friend, Robert.
Right.
Cortez. I'm not supposed to mention his name, but he says go ahead and mention it.
Right.
He's negative about everything. But every time a healthy person that takes vitamins gets sick, he wants to call me and tell me about it.
Well, here's the thing.
So if a nutritionist that's really as committed as you and you catch a cold here and there, is it because of the damage you did? I mean, I'm just saying, what's your take on it? Is it the damage you did taking probiotics? Like you said, you lived on antibiotics growing up. What's your take?
I think I've definitely healed from that and done that. But the bottom line is, just because I'm a nutritionist or a doctor or naturopath, we're human, and I think we really need to kind of humanize all of us, and that we get run down, we get overwhelmed. Obviously, a lot of booze comes into play over the holidays.
But some people have better immune systems than others.
Yeah, they do. Some people have stronger foundations and better immune systems. For me, I was in New York during the polar vortex, colder than it's been in 23 years. And I knew I was running myself down. I was going from meeting to meeting, and I had a lot of friends who I love dearly. And I was, wanting to see everybody and do everything, and you can see. And then
so if you don't sleep enough,
alcohol comes into play. Yeah, you want to have
wine.
a few drinks with your friends, a glass of wine, and then that's 2-3 nights in a row. Plus it's freezing cold, you're running yourself down. And that's the thing, is we all have a tether. I know when I'm getting to the point of no return, and I'm human too, so I push myself past my limits, you get sick, and the body says, okay. You need to recover.
All right, okay. So back to this.
You never get sick, though.
I don't I'm going to knock on wood, but I don't catch colds. I kind of have beliefs of why I don't, but I don't catch cold. People could sneeze on me.
Yeah.
They could do whatever.
So what are your beliefs? Why don't you get sick?
Well, I think because I have been taking at least 1,000 to 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C since I was about 12 years old.
That's a lot of vitamin C, 5,000
for
milligrams
years.
Daily?
Yeah, well, there's some people that take 18,000 milligrams of vitamin C. And your friend that you just went to her conference, I know somebody that, you must know this, that the people that, to find your dose, you take vitamin C every 10 minutes until you have diarrhea, right? And so that, I know some people in San Diego, he's an alternative gastroenterologist, functional medicine doctor. He's 78 years old, Dr. Hirschenbein. He takes 17,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, every day. So I'm not that extreme. I have a big bottle that
That's kind of excessive, but
I
supports adrenals. How's his skin? Pretty good, huh?
His skin is good. He's looking. So again, I don't know. That could be it. Part me, and I take a multi.
And you're a low stress person. And in general, saying that how I know you.
Yeah.
You're always generally happy. You don't really take things super seriously. And
when I do get mad, I get mad right away, and I try to get over it right away.
I've never seen you mad. Yet.
Everybody gets mad. I don't get mad in traffic or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't sweat the small stuff.
I get mad when people steal from me. No, I'm joking. They don't steal from me. I was just throwing that out there.
Okay, that's for another show. Listen, I want to tell you.
No, they don't steal from me. I was joking.
Okay. I want to finish this whole what if you take antibiotics thing, because it's more than just probiotics.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's step A.
I wouldn't personally, I don't think. I'd have to be thinking I was going to die to take antibiotics.
Well, the reason I should
it.
say you're right, and I would normally I just muscle through it, but I had a conference to go to where I needed to be on my A game, and I had basically 3 or 4 days, and I didn't want to get anybody sick, and so that's the reason I took antibiotics versus letting it drag out until I naturally got healthier.
We're out of time. I'm the timekeeper here. Sorry about that, because I'm looking at the clock. But if you are taking antibiotics, because you have to, right?
Right.
I mean, you're sick, or you're about to get sick, and the doctor gave it to you. What do you do?
Okay,
To close
you take
this
a
out?
multi-strain probiotic. Multi-strain probiotic, we've already mentioned some good brands,
Okay.
and not just acidophilus or something like that. And you do that for 3 weeks. Then you also have to take something that rebuilds the intestinal mucosa, because antibiotics can give you leaky gut. And so you have to take something like slippery elm, marshmallow root, or glutamine, and you figure out what's right for you. You can ask at the health food store, you can do our Candida cleanse, and you figure out what's right for you. You do that also for 3 weeks to do the repair work so that it doesn't damage your mucosa and give you adrenal fatigue and all these other health issues. And then I always would suggest doing some antifungals as well. And so having lots of oregano with your meals, having lots of garlic with your meals, or actually taking Palo d'Arco, take grapefruit seed extract, take olive leaf extract. Not all of them at once.
You know I do all that stuff, by
But
the way.
take some sort of antifungal
Yeah.
for a couple of weeks. 2 weeks is fine. So 3 weeks probiotics, 3 weeks something that repairs the mucosa, 2 weeks on an antifungal, and then, it's fine. You're fine.
Okay, good. And by the way, I didn't mean to interrupt and say I do all that stuff like a know-it-all, but you were asking me how I don't catch colds, and I only mentioned vitamin C, but I do garlic 5 times a week, like large amounts of garlic.
That's good.
And I take oregano, and I take glutamine.
So there you go.
So maybe that's it.
your secret.
I don't know.
I should know that. We did a health consult. I didn't remember you taking those things.
Yeah, because you weren't listening.
I'm a good listener. I'm a good listener at
I'm
health
just
consults.
kidding. You were a great listener. It was good.
My last name means ear in Italian. I have to be a good listener.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, you've been watching the Randy and Christa show, news that makes you healthier. Christa, it was a pleasure.
It's always
You got a lot of
pleasure.
information.
It's always
so
a
they should go to
pleasure.
your website at
twjcandidacleanse.com. That will list out everything, and you can do the self-test.
That's your
and
website?
You can see if you have
That's
it.
one of your websites?
That's one of our websites for this digestive
Okay.
overhaul, and
Okay.
it explains everything that we talked about in depth because it's a lot to remember.
It is. All right. We'll see you next week.